Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Inside the Line show. Used to be Sportsline Model show, rebranded. Here we are, getting through the first week. Before we start, me and Steven have a couple NFL things to go over. Then we'll hit some college football, bring in Jake. John and Derek are in the chat answering questions, bringing some insight as well. Before we hit the NFL, we have to take a look back. John and Jake yesterday with a little MLB playoff takeover, 12-4. Also have a few futures from that episode if you haven't seen it yet, but quite the start to MLB playoffs for the team. So we love to see that.
I'm patting myself on the back because I'm the one who hired both of them.
Yeah.
So
you're just, well, where would we be without you, Steven?
Actually, probably more successful individually, but not here together. So there you go.
All right. Well, with that, so great stuff from them. We're going to go into a little bit of a Thursday night preview. We've talked about it before, but the model has value on this spread. Of course, we liked it more at 5.5. This line went all the way up to 7, came back down. If you want to talk a little bit about that. Yeah,
so on Sunday, we pointed this as, I think it was 4.5 on the early look ahead, and then Chicago had that horrible come from, they blew up a big lead. So the line moved as expected, and again, all the way to 7. And then the other day, yesterday, it actually pinged back to 5.5, and I was looking into it, and there was a major trend that was circulating on one of the more popular talk shows, the ones that get more than the 12 viewers we get, that apparently teams that lost in overtime on a Sunday and played on a short week and were favored, I think that was a trend, were something like 3-21 against the spread. So I think when things like that start hitting the popular sports talk radio, it's already been kind of influenced the markets. And so there was some action on the underdog Bears, but then it quickly bounced back to 6 on most sports books. So again, I think Chicago is a unique situation where the motivation of the players, not that players in the NFL always try hard, but there's a difference between trying hard and going overboard. And right. Considering the debacle of the management and coaching, and I could imagine these players aren't exactly ready to sell out as some teams do when you have new coaches. So I would think that, that this is a case where Washington is still a safe bet.
Right. Yeah. You see those like crazy, I don't want to call them silly trends, but a little bit of silly trends start to, affect the market and the odds makers, but not our model, which is the great part. So this is truly where we do see this coming together. Nicholas Lee was asking about how we feel about Washington minus the 6 and over 44.5. And as you can see, we do like Washington and we do lean towards that over. Ideally, we'd have a little more value there, but if we had to pick a side, we certainly like the over there.
Yeah. Washington scoring 30 points a game. Chicago, as we know, is a horrible defense. So
Right. Yeah. Good things. Things are looking up for Washington. 2 player props Steven put together for this game on either side of the ball. Sam Howell over rushing yards and Darnell Mooney over 29.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I mean, I like Sam Howell over here, not just because he's half Korean, but because, I was kind of, I don't know, sorry, you can edit that out later. His low for rushing yards in his 5 starts is 11. This is an act now because when I put some notes together, it was originally a 12.5 on a lot of sports books. So it might be ticking up. It's been 13.5 for the last 24 hours, though, so that's fine. Mm-hmm. He's averaging almost 7.5 yards per carry, so simple math is 2 carries away.
Right.
This year, quarterbacks against Chicago. So Jordan Love only had 12 yards in week 1, but still double digits. I had Russell Wilson last week, and even though he only had 13, that was did hit the over.
It did. So did Tua hit his over 3.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was beautiful.
We're all about to start off rushing yards here.
Mahomes and Baker Mayfield. Yeah, I'm going back to the well a little bit with second quarterback in a row to get over on the rush yards. Mahomes and Baker Mayfield both also went over. I mean, Sam Howell, when he has struggled, it's been when he gets sacked. And obviously the Bears don't have a vicious pass rush. But still, I think the word is out. He knows he is a good runner. Mm-hmm. Back to North Carolina, we saw that. Mm-hmm. And he knows that he has a bad tendency of when he doesn't necessarily feel the pass rush coming on. So I think that they will encourage him to take what's in front of him and get 14 yards.
Right. And we move over to the other side of the ball. Darnell Mooney, it's been kind of up and down for him. A little bit of inconsistent stats, but you think this is a good week for him to get over?
Yeah, I mean, there's the 0 yards in weeks 2 and 3 are not great, but even with those zeros, the over in his track record is 34 and 13, over 29 and a half receiving yards. Chase Claypool, who was their big acquisition last year, is not with the team right now. Right. And there isn't, other Cole Kmet stepped up, but besides DJ Moore, Mooney, Kmet, and then, maybe Khalil Herbert as a running back. So his percentage of yards is going to be pretty reliable in this case. Right. So he accounts for around 25% of the team's passing yards. Right. So before last week, you might be worried that, 25% of 100 is under 29.5. But Justin Fields, at least last week, showed that he is an NFL passer, and was 23 and 24 at one point. So yeah, with this matchup, Washington's offense has been scoring over 30, but their defense has been allowing even more. Right. So we need around, I think, if you get that 150 at least passing yards and Mooney's normal percentage of that, it should cruise right over this.
Right. I saw a question about Western Kentucky. We're going to hit college football later, so stick around for that. We'll answer that question. But first, we're going to talk about Survivor a little bit. Stephen, if you want to pull up our Survivor stuff.
All right. Give me 1 second. All right. There you go.
Yeah. So we have gone 4-0 so far, may I add. Yep. Looking into week 5, the Lions, one of the bigger, maybe the biggest favorite of week 5, laying 10 right now versus the Panthers at home. So for obvious reasons, we think this is the correct Survivor pick for this week.
Yeah, 4-0 is pretty good. I mean, even if you think that you're 80% confident, you 80 times 80 times 80.
And it's not like we're using all the powerhouses.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm really pleased with how this is going. Our percentage at the beginning of the year when we set up our Survivor picks for the season had Detroit at 70%. And that was when the feeling was, Bryce Young would be the best pure passer as a rookie. The team would be, looking pretty good offensively, and that has not been the case. Detroit's defense has looked great recently, and their offense against Jameson Williams back, this week after his gambling suspension. So, kind of love that our percentage is now at almost 75% on Detroit to win the game. So I'm feeling good about this Survivor pick. They're also, I think, the second biggest favorite of the week. The line on Sunday, we said this is the line that was going to move quickly, and it not only moved quickly, but it moved very significantly from a 7.5 look ahead line to 8.5 when the line reopened to all the way to 10.
Right. So while we have you with your screen shared, we have a question about starting Joshua Dobbs or Sam Howell this week in fantasy.
I think it's going to be, we got 99% sure it's Howell, but let me, and these are the good questions because the model projections have been really hot with when our start-sit decisions for quarterbacks. So last few weeks, we've had around 12 situations where the consensus ranking of a quarterback for start, we would have said sit and vice versa. And we've been on the right side with pretty much all of them. Mm-hmm. So this week, because of the Chicago matchup, and Sam Howell is a pretty good scrambler. It's so we have Howell all the way at 6th versus just the 14th on the Fantasy Football Today consensus.
Right.
And Josh Dobbs, we have a good week for Dobbs as well. So it's at 11th, but we would start Howell over Dobbs.
And what about Fields over Howell?
Fields, we have fading Fields this week. We have him all the way down at 15th. Fields is kind of maddening because you never know when. I know for Fields, we'll be really right or really wrong. Because you just can't tell that guy when he's going to start. I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden he runs the ball 15 times for 200 yards.
Right. So All right. So let's take a look quick at some other major line movement we've seen. Me and Steven have been talking about these games since Sunday, but one we've seen a lot of interesting line movement on, especially for a division rivalry. Ravens now laying 4 at the Steelers. This line's kind of been all over the place, but definitely on the bigger side for a game like this.
Yeah, so I think that if this was a non-division matchup and a non-rivalry game, the line would probably be Baltimore -5.5 or even -6. Not only because of how the team's been playing, but Baltimore's getting healthier and healthier in a lot of key positions. But Kenny Pickett will play, but he's probably going to be somewhat slowed by his injury, and it was his legs that was really what saved him a lot in his rookie year. Mm-hmm. So if that's hindered that, so I think this line is really more of like a -6, but it's -4 for this reason. The last 25 games these two teams have played, when the starting quarterbacks were healthy, 20 out of 25 had a line of no more than -4. And of the 5 games where the team that was a underdog, the final margin was less than 4, or less than or equal to 4 in 4 of those 5 games. So it's just the history of this team locking in at -4. I think that a lot of the numbers that have gone into this rivalry kind of don't apply right now. Lamar Jackson, some of the stats show that he's struggled against, say, T.J. Watt, but he's only played 3 games against the Steelers because, unfortunately, due to some injuries late in seasons, and then in his MVP season, he got to sit because we had locked up the number 1 seed, and then even like things like with the new offense, his I saw a stat the other day that he went from one of the longest in the league in the pocket at 3.3 seconds down to one of the faster releases at 2.6 seconds in the pocket before you. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things going on that the historical factors that kept this, incredibly close may not apply as much.
Right.
Especially for someone like me who wants the Ravens to win.
Right. One other game, I just want to touch on it briefly so we can keep up with their times. Titans are now 2.5-point favorites at the Colts. We see Jonathan Taylor's most likely playing. He's feeling healthy. And it's amazing to see that such a significant player is not technically really moving the line because he's not a quarterback. So something to keep in mind for that game. We've seen that go all over. So keep asking your NFL questions in the chat. Derek's in there too. We're all there to help and answer those. We need to move on to some college football. So I'm going to bring in Jake. We'll talk about the stability model, which you guys all know and should love because it's making you money. Added some features to this. These shopping carts show where you can shop around for that line. And then the steam is showing where the steam's coming in on that team a little. So since we're on the other side of it, you can shop around for those lines because we're fading those teams that the steam's coming in on. But Jake, if you want to talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, so I'll just go through each game real quick. Clemson, that line's pretty much staying the same, -21 versus Wake Forest. Maybe if there's some late movement, you can maybe get Clemson -20.5. I know we like Wake Forest because we still have Sam Hartman built in a little. And so they haven't been that good this year. Clemson and Cade Klubnik are finally starting to get things going on offense. So the stability model likes that a lot. FSU -24, that's pretty much stayed the same versus Virginia Tech. You're probably going to get between 23, 24, 25. Not a ton of movement there. Miami, Ohio, that's an interesting game because Bowling Green just went on the road and destroyed Georgia Tech, who was 21-point favorites against them. In Miami, Ohio, ever since they lost the game to Miami, Florida in the first game of the season, they've been good as well. So this is both teams with a lot of momentum. I saw 9.5 in one book earlier.
Yeah, you should definitely get 9.5 on a couple of spots right now, and I'll get that while you can.
Yeah, so I'll get Miami while you can. Blaine Gabbert's little brother, Brett Gabbert, he's their quarterback. He's been playing well. I think this. I don't know, but I think this is a spot where Bowling Green is coming off a huge win, and maybe they're due for a letdown. And this is a game where you want to shop around. I see Mackenzie put those shopping carts, so that's pretty cool. South Alabama -10.5 at Louisiana Monroe. You get that 9.5 at -120. You said, Stephen, right? And compared to
you could when we met an hour ago. Now that's off the board, so 10.5 is looking like the 10 is probably the best price. Yeah, an hour ago. So yeah, we have the choice, guys. Like, do we want to do this 24 hours a day? or now, but yeah, an hour ago is 9.5. So there's a chance that line could pop up again, and there's 9.5 at -120. So for that key number, we would have said pay more for the 9.5.
Yeah, so there was steam on Louisiana Monroe in that game, which goes to our favor in that case because we like South Alabama with the stability model. I know there's not much value in Stevens' model. I think we have South Alabama winning by 8 or 9. But if you could get it at 9.5 or 10, it's a big key number at 10 points. You get some push insurance at 10. So I'd shop around there and get your best price and maybe wait it out. Southern Miss minus 1.5. Old Dominion's been bad lately. They made a quarterback change. Their backup quarterback, who's now their starter, has been bad. Frank Gore Jr. had a pretty good game last week. He's been good. So the stability model favors Southern Miss there. Notre Dame minus 6.5 at Louisville. The steam's actually favoring Louisville here. You get it at minus 5.5 in some places. So I would hop on Notre Dame now if you like Notre Dame, if you get it minus 5.5. Michigan minus 19 at Minnesota. There's a little variance in numbers, so I'd shop around if you like Michigan, get the best price there. And then the Miami game hasn't really moved a ton, but there's some steam on Georgia Tech, but it's gone back and forth. I think if you could get 20.5, I'd hop on that now, especially after Georgia Tech's game last week against Bowling Green.
Yeah, you could get. It's actually it's. I don't know why Georgia Tech is getting steam. I've seen minus 19.5 now.
Yeah, I think it's just maybe because it can't get much worse than what happened last week. Maybe they're all fired up after getting embarrassed, but Miami's coming off a bye week last week. I don't understand why.
That's just why I think there's not any injury concerns on Miami's side, right?
They should be as healthy as they've been all season coming off a bye.
Right.
I saw Big Cheesy said Sam Houston Liberty under
for these Thursday night games. Where do we want to start?
Yeah, so Sam Houston Liberty. This Liberty is a game we want to talk about because we had a ton of value on Liberty at minus 18.5. It's now at minus 21. If you get 20.5, I'd still take it, but we had a value. We no longer have it. We had value on the over. I don't like it because, as Big Cheesy said, Sam Houston's so slow pace. Liberty's defense isn't great. I think Sam Houston could score, especially if Keegan Shoemaker is starting like he did last week, and he played pretty well against Jacksonville State. But I'd stay off the total. I'd maybe grab Liberty at 20.5 if you can.
Right.
What was the deal with them last week and Sam Houston scoring so much more? I mean, you're talking about the pace. They had so many rush attempts last week. So
they played Jacksonville State. They
must have come. The number of plays is they ran 94. I know there's an overtime, right?
Yeah.
There's overtime, yeah.
Yeah, but still 94 compared to 48 the previous week and 44 the week before that and 57. So, unless they ran 40 plays in overtime, they were playing obviously with a concerted effort to increase the pace.
Right. So moral of the story here is if you can get Liberty at minus 20.5, that's probably something you need to do now. And if you like it, this is the time to act on that. We'll move over to Western Kentucky. Someone was asking about that, the Western Kentucky money line.
Yeah, I would grab Western Kentucky right now if you can, if it doesn't move to 7. I like it at Western Kentucky minus 6. They are 12-5 ATS over the last 2 seasons. They have the stability advantage at quarterback with Austin Reed starting each of the last 2 seasons. They had a big win against Middle Tennessee State, their rival last week. La Tech has a bunch of QB concerns. Hank Bachmeier. We're talking about.
You can't talk about Middle Tennessee State. They're dead. They're dead to us. Never mention the name. That university doesn't exist. The middle of Tennessee doesn't exist. It's just a wasteland.
Anyway.
Yeah, should I tell that to AB, a proud alumnus of Middle Tennessee State?
Well, he has no longer. That school's lost its certification in my mind.
Yeah. So I like Western Kentucky here. I think it's a good spot for them. Hank Bachmeier has been limited in practice. He missed last week. I don't think their backup's that great. I think Western Kentucky should have a ton of success throwing the ball in this game, and we have a prop coming for you later in that game.
Right. Yeah. So we're talking about these Friday night games. We made a little prize picks parlay with the 2 props from earlier Stephen had mentioned, and then Jake has 2 more if you want to briefly hit those quick.
Yeah, I'll hit them real quick. So we have Austin Reed projected for 3.2 passing touchdowns. Solid value on the over there. They throw the ball pretty much every single play. He had 2 last week, but then he had 2 rushing touchdowns. Hopefully he converts those rushing touchdowns into passing touchdowns.
Yeah, he hasn't popped in passing touchdowns this year. Last year was like 7 games with 3 or more, and this year hasn't had one yet. So this is the one. This is the regression to the mean.
Yeah, exactly. So so we like him to go over 2.5. Treon Sibley, we have him projected for 59 yards. I think he's gone over in all but 1 game this season. He's their big play threat. He averages like 25 yards per reception. And then Sam Howell, Stephen got him at 13.5, 14. I still like that there. Darnell Mooney, I got him to over 2.5 receptions, which we have some value on, but I also like the 30.5 yards, which correlated together.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. So take a picture of that. Do what you want. Ride this parlay with us. Me and Jake are definitely going to do it. So it's a fun when we're all in it together. That is all we have time for today. Tomorrow is the prop party, the best day of the week. So certainly come back for that. We will have Derek in here also to give some of his props. So until then, good luck tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.